construct. For the workshop part, when we actually write some code, I'll be kind of copying and pasting because I think it'd be kind of boring for you to watch me just to write CSS all day. But we will be creating a template. I have a couple of USB thumb drives I'll circulate around. There you go, Mark. There's 2 files on there. One is a Joomla installer. I'll start over here and just kind of let it meander through. The Ubuntuism.zip is an installer. It's an installable extension. It just installs like any template would. Yeah.
Yes, and then user interface on this USB drive has to be stuck.
It should slide right out. It's like a folding knife. Here. That's okay. There.
Oh, I see. Yeah. It's too complicated.
It's a video.
Now, if you have Wi-Fi access, you can actually get all the files up on GitHub. So github.com/betweenbrain/Ubuntuism. I think that was better than exploring Racket template development. Kind of good stuff. So I will head over to the GitHub page where that is at.
Excuse me?
Yes.
Between Brain. Okay.
Yep. Oh yeah, I should explain. Between Brain, that's another weird name I came up with. That's my nickname, also named my company. So all the work I'm doing in GitHub is at GitHub/BetweenBrain. Ubuntuism is the template that we're working on today. The installer that you get off the thumb drive, or if you go to Downloads here, you click on Downloads and click on Download as zip, you will also receive an installable.
Download as zip?
Yep. You see right here the Download as zip button on
Sure.
GitHub? If you click that, you'll be prompted for a file, or actually automatically downloaded, that you can just install right into Joomla. When we get into coding, you will need Joomla 1.7.2, and preferably with sample data, preferably a clean installation. If you could do it with an existing website, maybe a live client website, they would love that. Trust me.
So I guess what you Ubuntuism zip
Yep.
directory?
Yep. If you just,
It's an extension, right?
it's an extension. You can install it. I'll show you how it installs.
Was this also on the zip file that went around, zip drive that went around Mark's section?
Yes, it is. Yes,
Okay.
it is. Did you take my third one?
Just a second.
Just kidding. All right, so I'm going to talk for a few minutes just to kind of introduce some theory and some background, kind of find out where everyone's at, and then we'll jump into some coding. So it's not something you have to worry about right now. I just want to get everyone started with it. Oh, I should also mention, don't have to worry about taking notes, because at GitHub, we have all the files. You can even clone the repo into your template directory. I also wrote a step-by-step tutorial for creating this template that we were building today. So we have all the code blocks with explanation in there. It's 18 steps. The last one was, I got lazy, so I just copy and paste this code. But really, it's just CSS. A lot of what we're doing is CSS. We'll be modifying some of the layouts. But part of the idea, part of my agenda for today with this talk is to show you how we can make templates very quickly and very easily. And I actually should ask everyone, who here has created a template from scratch, from zero code? 3 of you. 3 brave souls. Well, if I should ask, who of those of you who have not created a template from scratch, why haven't you?
Wasn't itching.
Okay.
Late, I copied and hacked.
There we go.
It's easier to take a...
Capital
Okay.
H.
Seems
Okay.
to save a lot of time.
Save a lot. Okay.
Make a nice quality.
Great. Well, what I hope to show you today is another technique for creating quality templates without having to hack and modify existing ones. In many respects, we're working from the same perspective. It's just this way we're starting from kind of a blank canvas instead of like a painted picture and scraping off paint and then putting paint back on. That's the idea. That's the theory. I should also mention this presentation is also on GitHub. This is actually an HTML document. I'll prove it to you. It is actually using Leo Barreau's CSS slideshow system. So it's really cool stuff if you want to check it out.
I have a question. I have
Yes.
just here. I've got only 1.7. Is that a problem?
No, it's fine. Any version, it'll work on any current version of Joomla. This is a unified installer. And yeah, any other questions before we start talking about Ubuntuism? No? Well, basically I already touched upon what we're doing and why we're doing it. The goal is to really be able to create one-of-a-kind Joomla templates. We're talking custom, unique, whatever kind of design you want, without imposing any creative limitations. We want to do this quickly, easily, and we're going to do this in such a way to where you have a strong foundation that you can work in different directions with. It's pretty simple. It's pretty straightforward. One reason why we're using Construct is because I developed Construct with this in mind, and it's kind of been that evolutionary, organic process. It was never like a product I set out to create. It's just something that just kind of happened, and I found myself just kind of naturally doing this. So that's the background in this process, this theory, the background of Construct. Yes?
What exactly is Construct in terms of, is it a file or a set of files in this folder, or what is it?
No, that's a great question. Construct, essentially, if you want to really get very technical, Construct is a template. It's a blank template. It's also kind of a smart template. It allows you to do a lot of things.
When I've installed Ubuntuism on my
Yes.
Joomla, where is Construct?
Ubuntuism is a customized version of Construct.
Okay.
Yeah, not to confuse things. I customized it. That's the brand new HTML5 version that everyone here is getting a free copy of. I customized it to simplify a few things for those of you who may not be as experienced with creating templates. It's also just to kind of expedite the process.
Okay.
A couple little nuances. But no, it's a great question. Ubuntuism is a customized, renamed version of Construct 5, this new HTML5 template framework that works in all versions of Joomla. We've actually written HTML5 overrides for every core component and module. If the project wants it for core inclusion, it's yours. So it's there if you want it. So the background is, when I was creating Joomla templates, after I created my first one, I found myself reusing code. For the three of you who have created templates from scratch, have you done that? Have you found yourself doing that? Yeah, it's a very natural thing that happens. You create a template from scratch. You say, hey, this worked really well, or it didn't crash and burn. And you say, okay, next template I create, I'm going to borrow some bits and pieces, and it just kind of evolves over time. And that's really how I found myself creating a template framework. Now, I have to say for the record, I never considered Construct a template framework myself. I had other developers and friends say, Matt, this is really a great framework. I'm like, okay, if you insist. I developed it as a tool for myself to create custom templates from scratch more quickly, more easily. And also to take an iterative approach to improving that code. I'm not sure if you found that to be the case when you reuse templates you've created. You say, hey, you know what? I could have done this a little bit better. So you go back and you improve it, and you reuse it again, and you may, oh, hey, this didn't work quite right in Internet Explorer 6, 7 maybe. So you figure out a couple of fixes that make it work. So over time, it just kind of evolves and organically grows into essentially your own custom framework. And that's actually one point I wanted to touch upon, is that developing your own custom template development framework isn't that hard. It's not that scary. It really takes that kind of a philosophical shift, that iterative design approach to reusing that code base. We'll talk more about that in a second. So achieving Ubuntuism, also known as rapid template development for the Joomla CMS. Really, it's that what we just talked about. It's kind of a process and a mindset. The process is we start every new template with the same foundational code. and then we improve upon that, we build upon that. The part of the process is that while we're writing code, while we're creating these unique templates, we try to identify bits and pieces of code that could potentially be reusable. And we put that in our code base, our framework. And we also look for code that is definitely unique for that one particular design, and we just kind of segregate the two, so that next template we create, we have this improved upon code base. It's kind of organically, evolutionarily, it just develops that way. So we talked about that. And this might be a little too cheesy, a little philosophical, but a lot of it is about the Japanese philosophy of continuous improvement, Kaizen. Has anyone here worked in manufacturing or had clients that work in manufacturing? So you've probably heard of lean manufacturing? Maybe not. Has anyone heard of lean manufacturing or Kaizen? Yeah. So really it's about continuous improvement. And that's what...
all that stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. If I have to keep stepping 2 steps this way, I'm going to move things 2 steps closer to me. So I can say it was 2 steps because that's 10,000 steps in a 1 year of work. We'll do the same thing with code. We'll find better ways to write this code over time. It just kind of organically evolves. Now, I should probably ask all of you, I'm going to go off script here a little bit. Since only 3 of you have created a template from scratch, would anyone be interested in talking about the anatomy of the template? Oh, thank you.
Yes.
Yep. Okay, so should we maybe put this on pause for a minute and maybe review really the fundamentals of what a Joomla template consists of?
What about what it should be consisting of?
Well, there should be and there's could, but absolutely, yeah, we can look at the fundamentals. So I'm really going to throw gas on this fire. We're gonna try something new here.
Matt,
Yes.
most people should have my handout from
Oh,
the
great.
workshop I did yesterday, which starts off with a list of ingredients.
Oh, great.
And is a step-by-step guide to how to do templates.
Okay.
Um,
Great. Well, then I wonder, do we want to review that or?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Do you want to see what they have?
Okay. Yeah. Absolutely. I was just going to do it off the top of my head, so.
That's great. Thanks, Mark.
Actually, I woke up early this morning due to the wonderful jackhammering outside of our hotel room.
Didn't you order that?
Yeah. Your wake up call it.
Living your experience.
Okay, so we'll do that. Oh, there we go. Oh, thanks. There we go. Okay, so I started creating this template I was calling boot camp. So, looking at your ingredients list, one of the first ingredients we have is the index.html file. Actually, you know, it might be easier.
Does
Might be
anybody
easier
need
to
a copy
visualize.
that you didn't bring with you today? I've got a bunch.
And I will delete that.
I got mine.
All right. So,
You mean index PHP?
Is it?
well, yes, that too.
That too.
That too.
That too.
Well, the index.html is an empty file. That's the security by obscurity, kind of the fallback. If somebody does navigate to this directory in their web browser, I'm going to try this. So we'll do templates / bootcamp. This is what they get.
Oh, I see. That's true. You just have that.
If we rename that, depending on the way my server is set up, my server is set up correctly. If my server is not set up correctly, I could get potentially a listing of files in this directory. Security issue. So that's why we have this blank index.html. First ingredient in our recipe for a custom template. Index.php, that's where your markup goes. And if we think about what a template is, let's not worry about the ubiquitous black box and all this scary stuff. Really, a template is it's markup and style. That's all it really is. If you think about a traditional static HTML web page, you have markup and style. So your markup in a Joomla template will in a bare bones basic template will go into an index.php file. That's the core of your markup. CSS is a folder where you store your style sheets. And we have other folders. We can have images, where you can have language files, where you can have an HTML folder within your template. That's where you put your core output overrides. So if you want to change the markup in, let's say, mod login, that's where that will go. Template details.xml. This is probably the most important and foreign file to a lot of traditional web designers and developers going into Joomla. It's not that scary. It's actually, it makes a lot of sense if you can kind of get over all this scary code. The reality is, I probably can delete everything but the name tag, if I'm not mistaken. Playing with fire, but the template details.xml is the file that tells the Joomla installer what this template is, where does it go, and what files are associated with it, what to install, what not to install. So a couple things we'll walk through here real quick. And you'll find this general format of the XML file to be common with pretty much every extension within Joomla. There's just a few little things you need to change, a few programmatic, how do I say this, a few different attributes, a few different, just minor things, but it's very similar. The extension tag, that's a pretty important one. We have version 1.7 that just tells Joomla the minimum type of Joomla that this can install into. Type equals template. That makes sense, right? I mean, client equals site. Now in Joomla we can have both site templates and administrator templates. So if you wanted to create an administrator template, God bless you, you make that client equals administrator. In this case, we're creating a site template. Now this last one, method equal upgrade, that's kind of my own little personal, please do this. You don't have to. Method equals upgrade is kind of an optional thing. But if you do not use method equals upgrade, you cannot upgrade your template by simply just installing a new version. You have to uninstall the old one first. And of course, you'll lose your parameters and any changes stored within the Joomla database.
Oh, that's the trick.
That's the trick. And that's my, I tell everyone, every extension developer, please, I'm begging you, please use method equals upgrade. Even if you never release an upgrade to your extension, you're at least allowing yourself the possibility of releasing a future release that people can just click and install without having to uninstall the old version. So,
can I make a question here?
Yeah, absolutely.
When you if you prepare your template for upgrade in the future, next time you upgrade, do you have to have a separate installation file for the upgrade, or when you get just one package?
Just one, yep.
And then it will know. Is that how it works?
Yeah. And Mark, correct me if I'm wrong. The Joomla installer will basically uses this file list, and this file list is a manifest of the files being installed, and it basically says, well, okay, if there's changes in these files, we're going to use a newer version of the files. I'm not sure if Joomla automatically just replaces everything with what you're installing, or if it does a diff.
I believe it deletes everything in the old manifest and then copies over.
Okay.
So you actually want to use a full package every time.
Yep.
And it's really set up for that.
So, but
You can play games and do an incremental one if you want. We do that with the core CMS sometimes, but it's simpler just to use a full.
But what will happen if I made like ink changes in an HTML folder?
Then you better have copies.
That is where things get very complicated here. I'm actually going to talk about that a little bit. Where we have a very difficult time with anything that's code-based in a template, where you actually change a CSS file or a PHP file, anything like that. When you install an upgrade, you do run the risk of losing your customizations. I've worked out a method to allow you to preserve changing the layouts of the template, the index.php file. It gets really hard when you get into the HTML directory, when you're customizing the layouts provided with a template that change the layouts of Joomla. It gets really, really hard. I have a method that I've devised to allow you to customize that without losing out during an upgrade, but it gets really complicated, and it's probably not user-friendly.
Does everybody here know about alternate layouts as opposed to template override layouts?
If they came to my workshop yesterday, they do.
Because that's another way to save your work is if you created an alternate layout.
True, absolutely.
Then you wouldn't lose it when you upgraded the standard.
Absolutely, that's right. That's right.
And even if you just created it purely for
And
the
didn't use
purpose,
it.
purely for the
Backing up.
purpose of backing up your work.
Absolutely. That's
And
a
go back
great
and
point.
rename it as default.
Or if you attend this afternoon's next session on Git, you would have every revision you want to
Yeah,
on
that's a
your
good point
laptop.
too.
Yeah, absolutely. I know myself, I'm using Git for almost everything now, just so I have that ability. So I can, of course we're getting a little off topic, but that's okay. We're, have everything in Git under version control. You install your updates. Oh, I lost my customization. Well, it's under version control, so I'll just merge in that customization into what I just upgraded, and it gets really confusing and complicated. But that's one way to preserve your customizations. But I'd say the Joomla way probably is the alternate. I'm sorry, alternate.
Just
menu
rename
layout.
Your alternate layouts or alternate menu items.
Alternate
depending
menu
whether it's
item.
a
Okay.
component or a module.
So
You're renaming the little PHP in the HTML folder. Instead
Thank
of
you.
default.php, you say my default.php.
okay, there we go.
I think you make a great point, though, to make sure everybody here understands. Version control is not in any way connected to code.
Yes.
It's any kind of text file. If a file is a text file, you can use version control to manage it.
Absolutely.
So it's not just for coders.
Yeah, absolutely. And GitHub makes it very easy to put things in version control. They have fantastic support, really great tutorials. This morning I started creating this bootcamp template. Just in a couple of minutes I started creating it, threw it up in GitHub. So whatever we do today, changes we make, whatever we code, I will be committing to GitHub. So if you GitHub/BetweenBrain, you'll find repositories. You'll find one for bootcamp. That's what I'm calling this, a template bootcamp, or ad hoc. And one for Ubuntuism. So everything's up there. But yeah, absolutely. Anything that is some sort of text file, HTML, CSS, PHP, JavaScript, XML, everything. You can put it under version control, and Git will help you manage those changes. Back up your work in case you do happen to overwrite something in the upgrade. So really, in the essence of what a Joomla template consists of, the template details.xml, and I believe you have to use that file name. If you use something else, the Joomla installer will not find it in a template. So you have a very short XML file, and you're just describing what that template is. The name, these are all optional tags that really describe this package. The creator, the author, copyright, email, URL, version, so you can put in version numbers in your different releases, a description that pops up either when you install it or when you're in the template manager editing it. Now, in this example, I'm not using language files, but obviously if you want to provide some sort of internationalization of languages, you need to use language files. I left that out just because we can get even further off topic explaining all that. So, but really, your files list. This is really the essence of what a core, really like your most basic Joomla template needs. This tells Joomla what files are supposed to be installed. Now, we talked about the index.html file. That's just a blank file put in there for security reasons. Index.php is where your markup goes. We'll look at that in a minute. And your CSS folder is obviously where your CSS goes. It doesn't have to be called CSS. It's just, that's the programming convention, so that's where it makes sense to put it. But your HTML folder must be called HTML, and that's where you put your core markup overrides. Any questions so far? This is probably the scariest file. Probably the scariest file for anyone coming from a traditional web design background to Joomla templating is this file right here.
But if you think of just grabbing one from
Yep,
another template
exactly.
and then modifying it for yours, then it doesn't have to be so scary.
Exactly.
Just-
And if you look at it, if you just, take a deep breath and read through it, it makes sense. It really makes sense. So our index.php, okay, I'm going to delete all this because this is from something else I was playing with some time ago. And I will admit, this is 6:30 in the morning. So we are going to delete out all this page. So
It's simple.
it is really simple. The first thing we do in any, I guess really any PHP file in Joomla that will be called, like especially index.php, we have this define JExec or die statement. It says if you're not Joomla accessing this file, goodbye. Nice try, but you're not going to get in here. We have a standard, really the standard head that you see in any HTML file. The only difference is this line right here. Sorry, my validation keeps talking. All right, JDoc include type equal head. All that says, all that really is doing is say, include the Joomla head. So, for example, MooTools, that's loaded by the core, other things loaded by the core, is all loaded in this little statement. Any questions about it? No? So, the rest of your template, you can use standard HTML. I'm going to do HTML5 because I like it. We'll do a header. I'm just going to move this little statement here.
Wouldn't you also have to change the doc type when you use HTML5?
Yes, absolutely. That's an excellent question. Thank you very much for reminding me about that. I'm going to borrow a bit of code from our sample template.
Now, I just have one other question too. Joomla 1.7 natively does not support HTML5, right? You need to include some overrides
Absolutely.
to truly recognize HTML5.
Absolutely, and everyone in this room now has those overrides. Although there's HTML5 overrides for Joomla 1.5 and 1.7, I should say the 1.5 and 2.5 series of Joomla. In that Ubuntuism template, there is a folder HTML that has a unified set of HTML5 overrides for both versions. So you can feel free to copy and paste that into your template. Shouldn't break. Knock on wood. So yes, for HTML5, absolutely, I had the wrong doc type. Thank you. My apologies.
You can kill 1.5,
Oh, yes, absolutely.
or at least part of it.
Well,
I don't know which part.
we'll simplify it. We'll make it really simple. So really, the point here is that you use standard markup, your standard HTML markup. Now, where things change a little bit in Joomla is we have these JDoc include statements, type equal modules, name equal whatever your module name is, your position name.
It's the position.
And the position name equals nav, which is actually something we did not define in our XML file. Shame on me. We'll go back to that in a second. And style equal raw. Who here has heard of module Chrome? No. Yep, a few of you, okay. So module Chrome is something that dates back to 1.0, I believe. Maybe Mongo. In the Joomla provides mechanisms for wrapping modules in predefined sets of markup. This is where you set that type. Style equals raw means don't wrap this module in anything other than the markup I've already used here.
Excuse me, where do you find out the choice of styles?
Best place is if you go to docs.joomla.org. If you look at Module Chrome, you'll find a whole list of available options. And you'll also find techniques how to create your own Module Chrome. So the other really important statement that if you leave out, you will be very surprised what will happen is this last line right here. JDoc include type equals component. Does anyone want to guess what that does? Now, I'll be honest with you. There are some people that find it beneficial to create templates without the component. They use only module positions. And I know that sounds kind of funny, but actually there are a number of people in the forums that tried to create a Flash intro for a website, for a Joomla website. Like, how do we do this? I said, well, it's very simple. Just create a template, assign it to your homepage, only your homepage. Delete that line of code. And you have your module in that position, that's your Flash file. It's like, wow, you're right. That's one way to do it. It's one way to do it. There's a lot of fun things you can do with templates. Templates are very powerful. They're a great way to kind of manipulate a Joomla website, especially when you start playing around with things like this. But in your template, in your bare bones essential template, you really want that. Without that, you're not going to get much. So the rest of your template really consists of other markup. You know, we'll have maybe a section here. And just do a class of, we'll just call it column 1. Hopefully I won't create too many typos. And I'm just going to copy and paste. The best programming technique ever. Copy and paste. So we'll do column 1. And another little trick, if I don't include the style equals raw, it defaults to raw.
And raw is nothing. Raw is no extra markup.
No extra markup. If I put
the style of XHTML is just a single div.
Yep. Yeah, it gives you div. It gives you the H tag too, doesn't it?
And
For the mod.
And the opportunity to,
yes.
to
if you
say
give it
yes, show the title.
Exactly. That's actually a great point. If you use style equals raw, it does not show the module name if you have set that to yes. So if you create a template and use style equals raw and you say yes, show my module name, as not appearing in your template, and you're wondering, what did I do? Why isn't this working? You start swearing at Joomla, or you maybe go file a bug report. Well, it's style equals raw. Or you forgot to define a style. Neat little tidbit there. I have to say I'm excited about how dynamic this workshop's gotten. Totally off track, but that's great. It's exciting.
One other snippet you should include there above your component is type equals message.
That's a good point. That's one reason why I created a template framework. So I can do this once and then forget about it. I'm gonna. You see, this is my index.php file for construct. This is something that you don't need to ever worry about messing with, unless you really want to. So we have all this code, and we have our nav, message. There we go. Actually, I'm going to grab another little snippet here. A little fun thing we can do here. Now we have this other snippet, and don't worry about taking notes. I will be committing this to GitHub. So we'll just, this will be the boot camp repo. Just, use the magic of undo here in a second. JDoc include type equals message. This is really what it sounds like. If Joomla has a compelling reason to display a message to you or to the end user, This little line of code will allow that to be displayed in your template. If you don't have that in there, somebody tries to log into your website, they use the wrong username and password, they won't get in, and they won't know why. They'll be maybe a little bit unhappy or confused, they'll send you an email, they'll call you on the phone, your client will start yelling at you, why can't people log in? So that's a pretty important line of code if you want people to have a good user experience. If you want to be mean, leave it out. And the good thing about that is that you can put this anywhere you want. You can put it in your header, you can put it somewhere in your body tag preferably. Put it in the footer, put it in a div that you position absolutely in the lower right hand corner, wherever you want. It's really just like another piece of HTML in your template. It just allows Joomla to stick messages there. Same thing with a component. You could put your component, this little component tag, anywhere you want in your template. It doesn't have to be right there. Make sense? Okay. So, programming on the fly. So we can use any type of markup we want in our template. You know, we could even use tables if you feel so compelled to. I'm not recommending it. I'm not condoning it. But, you know. That would be ironic, actually, to use tables in an HTML5 document. Use tables for that. But we'll just call this, Bob. Doesn't really matter. It's just a name. And that's actually something, that's an interesting point to talk about. Module positionings. They can be anything you want. And what we do need to do in our sample template is we need to define our module positioning. Something very important that I didn't do. This looks like a lot of scary code, but it's really pretty self-explanatory. It's pretty simple. Somewhere in our XML file, we need to have this positions.
Now you have to add Bob.
Well,
I
let's
do.
get rid of all these other ones and just.
Oh, just make it.
Yeah, so for example, if I wanted position Bob to show up in the Joomla administrator when I'm assigning a module to a module position, you need to declare that in your XML file. So when you have these positions, that is what Joomla parses to create that list. So for example, administrator. So right here, when I click this button, when I select my position, this list that's generated here comes from this part of the XML file.
Only it's showing of all installed templates.
Yes.
All on top of, in one area.
Yes, in Joomla 1.7, it will show you everything, every module position that's been declared in an XML file that's installed in that website. Now, this isn't mandatory. You can not declare any module positions and still have module positions in your template. It's just people won't know about it. So it's kind of a service to the end user to include that in your XML files.
They could just type it in.
Yep, they can just
They have
type
to
it in,
know what
exactly.
to type.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah, if you don't declare the module positions in your XML file and you have module positions in your template, they won't know about it. You'll have to have a list on your website. You'll have to figure it out. You'll have to look at the code. So this is part of the XML file. This generates that list. Yes.
So then in 1.7 beyond, is it going to be a good idea to uninstall our unused templates? I've never bothered with that. It's going to be
Oh,
confusing.
geez, sorry.
Could you repeat the question?
Yes. The question was in 1.7, or I guess in the 2. Series of Joomla, the 1.6, 1.7, 2.5, if it would be a good idea to uninstall unused templates. That's a practice I always follow, just to reduce the amount of code on a website. Well, yeah, that's a great point. It could be a usability issue because
Although you can filter there.
you can filter, yes.
You can filter by template, for example.
Like template, okay, yes.
Oh, that's nice.
That's why I put that in there.
I created,
Do I ever
I
Google
created
it?
some templates, and when I open it, there's always position 1, position 2, even though they're not in my XML file.
They're
Yes.
in some other, they're in these.
They're in these. Absolutely. Yeah.
Also, we reduced in the 1.7, we got rid of, there were, in the sample data, if you installed the sample data in 1.6, there were a lot of extra positions because they decided to use the load module feature to sort of feature each type of module. And because of the way, in 1.7, we were able to get rid of all of those positions. We didn't need, they don't show up anymore. So you have a lot fewer positions if you install sample data with 1.7 than if you did with 1. And I can't remember if it was 1.7.0 or what, I can't remember exactly.
.1.
Maybe it was 1.7.1. But anyway, in the latest version, all of those load positions aren't listed anymore, which got rid of a lot of them if you did the sample data.
Oh, I've .1. So, yeah. Bad. Shame on me. Yes, so, did everyone hear that? Everyone get that? Yeah, so right now in Joomla 1.7, when you select a module position, by default, without clicking any buttons, you'll see a list of everything available in every template. All these things that we declared in our XML file will show up there. So you can just select template, you can filter it by the template you want to assign your module to. That's
Go
it.
down, please.
Hmm.
So it's still showing all those atomic positions.
Yeah, and we still have column, okay, that's right. Comic load. Could that be because,
That's
I don't know, I haven't looked at the code.
yeah, because
Maybe
it's,
if
for
I-
example, I have this template here.
okay,
I created myself, and when I ask to show it, I have position 2 and position 7, which are not in my XML file. And I understand why just these two positions.
It might be showing those because you're using, it might show all the ones that are being used where a module's assigned right now as
Okay.
well.
yeah, so use positions plus
Yeah,
available
but
in
it
that
should,
template.
it should only show the
Yeah,
ones
but
for that
it's, in
template.
this case, it's not.
It might be a bug. I mean,
Well, it might be a
So the
feature.
Joomla tracker.
If you have content or a module that you really want and it's assigned to a different template, it would be a feature to still show it in the module manager.
Yeah, but it's
so you
funny
could know
for
to
us.
get it and move it.
For in this situation, I have 2 and 7. No 1,
Yeah.
3, 4.
And in the module manager, is anything assigned to those
No,
positions?
absolutely no. I created this whole template. So.
All right, sorry about that. We're just changing the topic for our workshop today. Okay, so back to our bare bones, the essential, the essence of a template. So we define our module positions in our XML file. That generates that list in Joomla. Any questions about that? So at this point, we talked about really the essence of what you need to create a really bare bones template. We have the XML file that defines the name. We define the files. We define the positions that are available in the back end. In the index.php file, we have our JExec or die statement for security reasons. We have basic standard HTML markup for the majority of the template. Just all we're doing is we're using these JDoc include statements, such as the one for the message, the one for the component, our module positions, and also the head, to allow Joomla to dynamically inject very important information into those positions. Does that make sense so far?
Yeah.
So, at this point, do you all think you could go build a template from scratch?
A template?
Any template, even if it's
A
one
template.
a template.
Yeah,
Good.
yeah.
Excellent. That's exciting. So far we've been successful. We've learned something. That's important. Great. That's awesome.
Can I ask
We're
you a
done.
question?
I'm just kidding. Yes.
On that section on the positions,
Yes.
okay, and you go into the XML and you have all the lists of positions, bottom, left, right, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Are those all then defined within CSS in terms of like width, margin, all that kind of stuff? Because those are just pretty much titles of positions.
Yes. There's kind of a disconnect there. The module position, and the question was, when you define module positions in the XML file, is that automatically, I guess you could say, affected by CSS?
Well, exactly where are those positions? Like you've got,
Oh, where are they?
you had the list of positions that you did a cut and paste out of.
Okay.
And if I looked at that, I saw bottom, left, right, whatever. Are those all defined as standard within Joomla, or are those all within CSS and you can control it there?
Combination of both. So the question is, these module positions we have listed here, where are they in the template? That's kind of the first part of the question, and that's this part right here. When we use the JDoc include type equals modules, name equal whatever, the name equal whatever, that's that module position name.
Right.
And so this statement just says, whatever module we have assigned to that position, stick it here. So that's really, in essence, all that does. Yes. Yes,
So,
Mark.
well, and I don't know if this is related to that question or not, but where the thing is physically going to show up on your inside your browser is controlled by this file. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, this
No,
statement
it's
right
a
here,
sequence.
this statement right here, this defines.
Okay, so this is just the sequence, but you can move things around
Absolutely.
But
with
notice that
CSS.
he wrapped that in a section with the classic column 1.
Right.
Yes.
That's your handle for CSS.
That's where our CSS comes into play. Now, you can use module class suffix to add a class to the code automatically created by Joomla for that module. So you can actually not have any markup in your template at all. And I guess theoretically, just thinking on the fly, you could have a template with nothing but just module positions and use just module class, but that would make things really complicated. So to simplify things, what we do, and we'll now take our workshop here to the next level, the next advanced level of snippet here. That little W3 validator saying on. We're going to use a bit of PHP. Oh, that went to the wrong place. Sorry about that. Don't worry, I will commit all this stuff so we can see examples of all this code we're talking about. Okay. All this code right here is a more complicated way of doing something like this. This is just a little more advanced way of creating a module position within a template. But we have a little bit of PHP in there, and don't worry, you don't have to know PHP to understand this. This is one thing I try to tell people, like Jen Kramer. She's afraid, well, she's not afraid of code. But I keep telling her, Jen, you can write code. Trust me, you can be a developer. Just, let's read the code by English. And we're going to read this code like English. So this first line, this is PHP. And all this says is if there's anything assigned to the module position of header above 2, if we have any sort of module, it could be 1, it could be 2, it could be 20, doesn't matter. If there's at least one assigned to the module position of header above 2, then we're going to do stuff that's here. If there is nothing assigned to the module position, we're just going to skip it. Joomla will skip it, and none of this code will be output in your template. It'll just disappear, just magically vanish. All right? That's the first line of code. Second line of code is going to delete this, because that is not necessary for the example. Second line of code is standard HTML. I'm going to wrap. I'm going to manually wrap whatever is produced by this module with this markup. That's something I'm doing manually. It can be a div with an ID. It could be part of a table. It could be a section tag, whatever you want. If you can write HTML, you could have 1,000 lines of HTML right here before your module. And then that module will be wrapped by that 1,000 lines of HTML, whatever you want it to be.
And that's actually wrapping a container that would contain multiple modules
Absolutely.
assigned to that position. So it's not
Absolutely.
wrapping each module, it's wrapping...
Absolutely. This code right here wraps every module assigned to this module position. You had a question?
Yeah, I'm so used to using third-party templates like using mostly.
Yeah.
That I don't really understand where the menu code is coming from in these templates. Obviously, the menus are modules,
Yes.
and they would have totally independent CSS and styling for the menus. And the question would be, if I start building my templates like this, I mean, when I sign on for a using template,
Yes.
I'm really signing on for the menus as well as the layout.
Yes.
When I sign on for starting here, what do we do about the menus?
Okay. That's a great question. We can, if it's okay with everybody, we'll throw everything I have planned out the door. And no, this is great. I mean, if it's okay with everybody, we can continue down this path and we can
I
talk
want to
about
see
templates.
construction.
I'm sorry?
I said, I want to see
Okay.
construction.
Yes.
Say something?
Yep.
This is what this session's supposed to be.
Okay. Dynamic on the fly, whatever. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
This is why they're here. Yes, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Go for it.
And we can talk about construct too somehow. If you want to see construct, we all have copies of it too. And I have the tutorial on GitHub, so don't feel like you're missing anything out because everything's up there. I was just going to kind of walk you through it.
Let's get shaky.
Okay.
This is good.
Okay. Okay. No, you're welcome. Absolutely. That's a great question, and we'll talk about that next. All right. Okay. So yes, back to this markup that I'm manually creating. It's just a div. Divs aren't scary. It's just HTML that I'm wrapping one or all the, well, I should say every module that is assigned to header above 2. And in this case, I gave it a module Chrome that I'm calling div. We're wrapping it in this markup. All right? Now, I could simplify this example and just eliminate that markup. The only difference, there just won't be a div around it. Now, the reason why we do that in this case is I'm basically hard coding anything inside, any module assigned to header above 2 will be wrapped in this div with an ID of header above 2. That way I can predefine CSS. In most cases, to position that division, we have our 2 or 3 or 5 column layout. Or if I want to define CSS for my menus, for example, if I could wrap this header, this module assigned to module position nav, if I wrap that with a bit of code, we can do the same thing there. I'll use the HTML5 tag of nav, and I'll do something really exciting, like call it a class of menu. There we go. So what I can do in this situation, same thing, same approach. I'm defining in my template a module position of nav. So you would think that, okay, I'll put navigation items there. I'll put my menu modules in the nav position. So I'm also wrapping those modules, one or more, with a nav tag class of menu. So for example, if I wanted a CSS Suckerfish menu, I would write my CSS to target the class of menu, and then the lists or whatever it is.
You lost your mic.
I lost my mic. Is it gone? I think it's gone. Battery is dead. We have the technology. Okay. So that's the first step. And that's really kind of the to kill two birds with one stone, how we can predefine behavior in our template, behavior of the different modules, is by wrapping them in markup. And to create our collapsible module positions, we use this bit of PHP that just says, if there's anything published to this module position, go ahead and output this code. Otherwise, it gets skipped by Joomla, and it's like it's not even there.
What does the output code look like?
It depends on the module. For example,
When you say you're putting a module out there, what is actually physically happening?
well, it depends. It depends on the module, and we will.
Oh, it just comes up where you can assign it to.
Yes, all we're doing at this point in this template that we're talking
It's
about.
the pull downs.
Well, at this point, all we're doing in this template is we're just defining where these modules can appear. That's all we're doing right now.
That's what I figured. It just wasn't.
And what they actually look like and their width and everything is defined in the CSS.
Exactly, and that's why we use this
The class.
the class or an ID. That's why we're wrapping these modules with some sort of markup, so we can control their behavior, their style.
Isn't it easier just to put the CSS right there so you can access it easily?
It is when you have a very tiny bit of CSS, but trust me, you probably won't end up with just a tiny bit. You will want to
Sometimes all those CSS files is more bother than it's worth to bring this up and actually do it.
Well, I'll show you an example.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get so spread out, you can't follow anything anymore,
Well,
especially in development.
this is screen.css. This is the same screen.css file I use in Construct 5. This file, this style sheet is 1919 lines. Oh wait, sorry. Yeah, no, 1919 lines of code. This is how would you call this? Verbose. This is fully readable. It's not minified. It's not optimized for file size, but it's very readable. And what this CSS is, what this CSS does, it does this.
You really skip the first step in the process, which is to have your design, and then determine how you're going to work, how you're going to set up those positions. Do that in your CSS, in your HTML and CSS, and then convert that to make that listing inside your XML file.
Yep.
But you really need your design first, so you can see where everything is going. Map those with your CSS.
So use your handy CSS editor and impressions or front page or Dreamweaver and set up everything you want, and then just cut and paste it into here, and supposedly it's ready.
And then once you put and position your module, they will be in breakfast out in the
Yeah, one thing.
Right. It just gets nuts after a while, remembering where you are. Sometimes it's easier to develop it inside the XML and then eventually bring it over to the CSS.
Well, one thing you could do that might be helpful for you, that I've seen some people do, is to create a static HTML wireframe. And they wireframe, they'll write their divs or section tags, whatever,
Right.
and they'll just write that with their CSS right there, and they get all their positioning worked out. Just HTML, CSS. No, don't worry about Joomla at that point. It's just a static HTML wireframe for the layout.
Yeah.
And then you can actually take that HTML, copy and paste it into your index.php file, and start putting in your JDoc include statements.
Lots of shows. I understand what you're saying, but I'd like to see it.
Well, I probably couldn't do one right now. It would take a little while.
So, if you,
Okay, so
if you do something like that, are you doing like the front page layout or an article layout, or how does that, I mean, like, in other words, I'm curious about the process of working with like, let's say you have a designer that doesn't know anything about Joomla.
Okay.
You know, a web designer.
Okay.
And I understand, so, and then they can pick all that stuff.
Yep.
So then what does somebody need to know if they're not a designer to take what they've done and then make it Joomla?
Okay, no, that's a great question. Yeah, that's basically like the next level of depth we're going to go into is the HTML folder. That's where things get really fun, really exciting. One second. What we're talking about right now is kind of like the framework that positions the modules, and we're not going any deeper. We're not affecting the markup of the modules yet. Right now, we're just positioning the modules on the
This is where they
screen.
would be.
This is where they'd be, and that's it. And right now,
This is for a template called Boot Camp.
yes,
So you can separate all your templates down in a subfolder, and each one needs an index.php.
absolutely. The template we are creating today is called Boot Camp. And right now, at this moment, these are the only files we have in there. The CSS directory, HTML directory, they only have just a blank index.html file, sorry. And right now, the only thing we have in there that really does anything are these two files. And all these things, just one second. And these two files, all they do right now at this point is we're just positioning, actually we're not even positioning, we're just telling the template where these modules appear within the markup of the template. Make sense?
Sure.
Okay.
And the CSS has what in it?
No, nothing yet.
Nothing yet.
Nothing yet.
Nothing yet.
We haven't done any CSS, we've just defined the boxes.
We've just defined,
Yeah.
the,
The
yeah,
divs,
basically,
sections,
yeah, just the
yes.
markup.
They just
Exactly.
define
Yes.
areas.
That they exist.
Mhm.
That's all, so you can see them on the menu.
Sorry?
They exist just to, so you can show them on the menu and make a choice of what position you want to put a module in.
Exactly, and we're defining where they are in the flow of the document, of the template.
And that'll be in the CSS file.
No, this has nothing to do with CSS. This has only to do with markup. Only HTML. That's all. That's the only thing we're dealing with right now.
Pretend you're writing a text, paragraphs. Right now, he's doing paragraph 1, paragraph 2, paragraph 3, one below the other.
Right.
After, later, when he put the CSS, these paragraphs will be one on the left side, the second one on
That's
the
where you
third.
define them.
Yeah.
Right now, we're just saying they exist and you can choose from them, but they're not defined where they are.
No, they're not formatted yet. So
Yes,
they're
nothing's
just plain
formatted.
Yeah, I
paragraphs.
just want to make sure because this gets crazy after a while.
Yeah, we have a question in the back.
We got a question from Bill right here.
Yes.
Yeah, my question has to do with workflow. You're
Yep.
starting out giving us position, but what are you basing them on? Wouldn't you start with a comp?
Well,
I mean, just to kind of like put it in the workflow that we can say, well, we need these divs because we're working with modules here. And these modules
Absolutely.
are based on this, rendering that I have.
well, there's different ways to do that, and that's, we're totally off topic where we started, but
To make the framework work, I need to know how to, put it.
absolutely. And what I would do, if you're creating a completely custom template from scratch, you're not going to use any framework or anything, do the wireframe. Create a static HTML wireframe out where you want these things to be. And then that will tell you which module positions you need and where, and that will tell you your markup, and that will also tell you the type of CSS you'll need to write. Yes, and that's kind of,
Thank you, Joe.
yep, absolutely. That's the way I would do it. If I was starting from scratch, which I don't do because I have this template framework. All right, so does that kind of help so far, or are we confusing everyone? Does that make sense so far?
Keep going to HTML overrides.
Okay, so we're going to go into HTML overrides. One thing I will mention real quick, just super quick, because we have a lot of questions about CSS and what. I don't know if we're going to have time to actually talk about CSS because that's like a whole other weekend-long seminar. But the important thing to note right here is that we can wrap all these modules with some sort of containing HTML with IDs or classes. And that's what we target with our CSS. All right? Is that enough of an explanation to...
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so we want to change the HTML output by Joomla. Now, first of all, one thing that's really important to know for anyone here who's It's really important to know. In Joomla, in our components and modules, we'll do a simple module. New mod login. This is Joomla. This is my root installation. You've probably all seen this structure, right? Does it look familiar to everyone?
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Okay. So I'm going into the core. Okay. Yep. Okay. We'll do a real. Yeah. Okay. Sure, okay, that'd be great. Well, I have an assistant now. It's going to help visualize.
Okay. I need an eraser.
Oh, here we go.
Okay.
Yeah, we can.
Leaving some of these questions, and Bill was correct, you don't have a visual of where Matt's taking you. Because Matt was originally going to take you here, but we pulled him back, so we're doing it more ad hoc, which means he doesn't have the there. So if we just draw the box of what we're building here in the real basic, because his template construct has a lot of different stuff to it, but we're just doing a couple of real basic modules so you can see how this pulls together. And the advantage of this, what's so great about what he's showing you, is not necessarily so you could all build this from scratch. It's so when you take a template that you purchase, you'll be able to look at that template and you'll understand what it's doing. And then you'll be able to change it. And to me, that's the beauty of all of this. That's my take on it. So, not that I have any opinion on this.
Yeah, hopefully somebody else will do it.
Please don't erase the.
Oh, we were on the other side. All right, on the other side.
as guest.
Want me to write on the other side, Laura?
9. Hold on. EAX. I just 48. Okay. And then we can write it again on the other side. I just don't want to interrupt him for too long. And if this session needs to go longer,
thank you.
It can, if that's what the group decides, because, you know, again, we're here for you today.
I have a train at 5:07 p.m. at Grand Central. I will talk until 4:30, and then we're at the door.
So, Matt, I drew, this is my screen. So we're going to have 2 module positions?
Sure.
Okay. Is that, what did you call them in the, I want to use exactly what you're using in the straight plane.
We have one called Nav.
Nav, okay. So we're going to put some kind of menu in there? Is that what you're thinking?
Sure.
Okay.
Sounds great.
Okay. Now, this can't physically get this way because we have no CSS yet. So this is like very virtual. And what else?
I'll call the other one Header.
Header.
Header. Is header going to be above Nav, or again, that's
below?
We're going to put it below.
We'll put it above.
Okay.
We're going to change a few things here just to make
That's fine. This just might help you guys to wrap around what he's trying to do. Is that good? Yeah. Okay, and
that's really it right now.
And then component and message, right?
Yeah, we have our
message. So in case there are any Joomla messages.
Bob.
And the component, right?
Bob has left the building, unfortunately.
Oh,
He had
no,
to
he's
go
down
home.
there in the bottom.
He's down there.
Oh, well.
So he could
But
be
he's
like
going
the
to
footer.
leave.
Bob, I missed that.
Bob
Yeah,
might be
we'll-
like a footer.
We'll call him footer.
Call him footer. Do a footer.
We'll make a footer module position.
Oh, Bob. I like that. But I like calling it Bob because that kind of makes us think that it's really, we created
Think out
it,
the
you know?
box.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, okay.
So Bob is going to be below the component.
Bob might be
Bob's
the sidebar, we don't know.
Oh, Bob might end up being on the side. We don't know. Bob hasn't come out yet. We don't know. Okay. Oh, and it's lowercase. Does this help with the visual of where he's trying to go? Does this? Okay, so as he's doing this, I can draw.
Well, then you showed what it looks like with this template, right? So far.
Actually,
No, because
we're simplifying everything quite substantially.
yeah, because the design that he showed before has all the different positions.
No. For a minute, when he was
didn't
switching
start
around,
looking.
he showed, you changed the template to this, and it just showed a very basic layout.
Oh yes, you mean
With no CSS.
Yeah, exactly. That's what
actually.
And that's pretty much what that is.
This is.
That's what I was talking about.
This is it. Yes.
Yeah.
That's it. This is kind of
Absolutely.
what we want to end up with somehow. You know,
Yeah. Okay.
a little bit.
So we have a header. We're gonna make this a nav. I'm gonna use the collapsible module positions.
Bob is at the bottom.
Okay, you're
Bob's
at the
kind
bottom.
of, well, we're not sure where we're gonna put Bob
Put a
yet.
class on that div and then I.
Yeah, well, we'll put him on a footer. How's that sound? I mean, you know, Bob's a great guy. He's
So Bob's always gonna be on the footer. So we're not gonna bother with side stuff or anything. Let's just focus on this and then that way, right?
Okay, so we have our
Does Bob have a
Your
job?
div is still called header above too, and you might want to see.
Yeah, make sure there's no.
I'm sorry, which
Paragraph 2, make it just
Line
header.
13.
line 13. Thank you very much. Actually, you know what? We're gonna
Yeah, we don't.
because we don't really need.
HTML5.
Because HTML5 you can
Yeah,
just.
because we're targeting header. Okay. Inheritance, right? With the cascade.
Yes.
I have a silly question. When you're doing
Yes.
the if statement, is it better to have the header, the HTML5 header above the if or within the if?
No.
I'm just asking the question.
No, absolutely. Though the reason why, and this is all dependent on your design. There we go.
Yes.
It depends. I mean, it really depends.
Mhm.
In my experience, most websites have a header, a body, and a footer.
Mhm.
So the reason why we have our module position inside the if statement is because maybe you may or may not have a module on every page, but there's a good chance that you'll have a header on every page. Some sort of background image or some sort of,
Background image, yes.
okay.
That's
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for
I
backing me
accepted
up.
that,
Yeah, most likely.
The header module might be a search module.
Exactly. It may not
Well,
be
but
on
if
every
it's a
page.
search module, then the answer to this is yes, so it's fine. I guess my question is, I'm going to be
This-
printing this location, this div, whatever properties are in header, regardless of if I have an actual header module.
Exactly.
That's what I'm trying to say.
Exactly, and it
And I'm
really
not a
depends on your
programmer.
design.
Yeah.
Yes.
Is there a reason you don't have any tags around the message and component?
Yes.
Okay, what is
Yeah,
that
good
reason?
question.
I'm lazy. I just haven't. We can do whatever you want.
Okay.
We'll do that. We'll just
Must you put a div or something around those?
If you want to style it.
If you need a handle to position them or set a width
Right,
or something.
okay.
exactly. But the Joomla will produce some sort of markup.
Okay.
We want to style it, so we will just. give
But
it a-
won't there be div markup with the, in addition, there'll be div markup when the component gets shot out.
Yes.
All the div from that component will be put in.
You're just about what we're wrapping.
Class.
You're just about how you're gonna wrap it.
Yeah,
You want to lay out some real estate for whatever component it is.
right. So this is the template for everybody, so, yeah. Just make sure I'm saying the right things. 'Cause
I hope I'm saying right.
I learned all this stuff by breaking other templates.
You too?
Yeah.
Breaking.
It's just
That's the way.
a dumb code question. Does it matter what order you put that code in right here or no?
Which
Meaning,
specifically?
can you put the footer up higher or something?
If you put the content above the message or if you put the, does
No.
it matter?
It
just
depends
reads
on
it
your
all.
design.
Okay.
It's where you want it. And that's the beautiful thing about Joomla templates.
Start to think that this a person who's got some kind of disability and he needs to read just plain text.
This is just
Right, but
metadata.
what I mean is
This is
that
metadata because you're defining everything
is there an order
in other
to
places.
this that you
Yeah,
have to
one way to look at it.
Yeah.
on
The divs to go.
Anywhere you want. It can be anywhere you want.
For the sake of-
Okay.
You have a
You want to
question?
make it show up.
I just
in
wanted
your-
to comment that I learned my HTML so long ago that footer wasn't a tag. That's an HTML5 tag.
Yes, this is the
So
HTML5.
if you're generating templates using this system that are pre-HTML5,
Yep. The-
you can use that tag.
And the great point about that is this is whatever markup I want it to be. It doesn't have to be a footer tag. It could be a div. It could be paragraph tag. It could be part of a table. It can be anything you want. Really, what really matters the most is this JDoc include statement type equal modules. I want my any module assigned to module position Bob. I want it here. Okay.
But here doesn't mean anything right now.
No.
Right now, here is really it's this. This is all we have. And okay, so we have.
And we don't even have any modules assigned
Right.
there.
That's
so-
correct. So really, all we're
Seeing
seeing
anything.
is actually no, we do. I think.
We have something in that?
we should have something to change here, I hope.
Do we have any banners?
Maybe not.
Gotcha. You could just do a custom HTML if you need to. This is my header.
Yes.
So we'll believe you.
Position header. Well, header. Publish, public. This is my header.
So I just have a question. If you use footer as an HTML tag, what browsers know about that tag?
No, it's
From
HTML5.
HTML5.
Right.
Yeah,
I don't know.
From
What browsers know HTML5?
all right, IE 9 and up,
Yep.
IE 8, IE 7, IE 6. If you're writing templates that will be seen in those browsers, you'll need to either use an HTML5 shiv, or you'll need to put in something like he's using a file called normalize.css. That will change. Basically, what that does is that makes it so those earlier browsers will be able to notice it.
Yeah,
But
so
for those things.
the question is, for older browsers, if we use HTML5, will they recognize it? No, they won't. But you can use you can include a file. It's a small JavaScript file called HTML5 shiv, HTML5 shim. Same thing, different names. And all that does is it allows the older browsers to recognize those new tags.
What is it, HTML5?
Shim or shiv, they're the same.
SHIM?
Yes. Same thing.
No dot?
Where do you place that?
No dot?
Up at the top, that should be placed above your CSS file. That should be the general
And it's a
navigation.
JavaScript?
It's a JavaScript.
.js?
Well, if you look, look.
Can you show us how you link?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's important.
Okay.
Everything's important.
Everything's important. But
Everything's
you know what?
important.
If you're going to be doing that stuff and it's not going to work on an IE7, IE browser, your clients won't be happy.
But it will.
Well, that's why we need to know this. That's what I'm
Absolutely.
saying. It's
Right.
important.
file.
So is there any downside to using HTML5 if you include this guy?
Well, this particular file that we're including, it enables the older browsers to recognize the elements.
.code.com, Lauren.
It's
It's right here. Yep.
Where is it?
right here.
But you have to put it in.
It's not .js, it's
Oh, wait, much
.googlecode.com
smarter for it.
I'm gonna.
is the
Yeah,
source.
right there.
But you have to go to HTML then. Source removed.
That's right, that's what I was going to
Shim.google.
Okay. So we're almost there.
So wait a minute.
He's copying
It's-
all this.
Yeah, no,
It's a source, and it's in the,
so it's actually going to another web page
This is going to.
in
This is,
Google in order to get the pieces that's going to make it work for the older browsers.
But you could just you could
Yes.
just include that in your
Or
template.
you
right?
can
Yeah.
get that file,
So that means if you
but by
design
getting it online, then at least it will probably
Stay
update
updated.
as things change. If you grab it and you put it locally, then as it changes, you're going to be out of date.
That also means if I sit here with a copy of my website, designing, and I don't have Wi-Fi access,
exactly.
I'm not going to see that. Of course, I'll use a new browser, so it won't matter.
Yeah.
But you have to, all of a sudden, we're getting into cloud computing whether we like it or not. Because we're
Exactly.
calling all these things off of Google's website.
And one,
I'll write it down.
there's pros and cons to this.
He's gonna have it in the code.
Yeah, it's going to be in the code. So you
It'll be
want
in
to
the
just
code.
write down, it's going to be, right now it's at line 9. You're going to be able to get all of this code.
Yeah, and the thing
Okay.
is, yeah, you can do it either way. You can actually do it both ways, but that's even
Oh, they'll let
more.
you copy that shim wherever you need it.
Exactly. You can download it. Now, one reason why I linked to the file hosted by Google Code is because there's a good chance that it's already cached in the visitor's browser, so they won't have to download anything. If I host it locally, they'll have to download it again and cache it a second time, and then. But the con is if you don't have internet access and you're developing in say IE6, then you're not.
Well, the other thing is from the project's perspective, that's not a good solution potentially, right? talking about 1.6, about how to, what to do about HTML5,
Mhm.
a year ago.
Exactly.
And so, yeah, a solution that might be fine for an individual developing
Exactly.
an individual website might, so I'm trying to get my head around what's a reasonable way for the Joomla project to deal with this issue of HTML5 and these
But
JavaScript files.
The one thing to make clear is that in IE 6 through 8, it's not like, let's see here.
It's
We've
not
so
like
many
headers.
other departments anyway.
Let's say, for example, what's going to happen is IE 6, they just won't see these tags. That's it. They'll see the content. They'll see everything there. So
But if you have styling that
If you have styling with that tag.
that
Exactly.
targeting those tags.
If you're targeting these tags, IE 6 through 8 will not see those tags unless you're using a JavaScript, a solution like the HTML5 shemmership. Exactly.
Why do you even have them in this? Why is the whole thing header there necessary? What does it identify?
What
A
if
header.
we did div class equals header, which
Yep.
is an older way of doing
You
it?
can do the same thing.
So I guess my question is, what would be the true advantage of going HTML5 and using header, or saying div space class equals header, and then you define it, and then you don't have to do all of this stuff?
Well, the advantage is HTML5 is
Trying to be device independent. It's going towards the
It's-
iPhone and the Android.
exactly. Well, it's more semantic. The whole thing with HTML5 is it's a more semantic markup language. Well, not language, a version of HTML. It's more semantic. So search engines, other devices will say, "Oh, it's a header tag. I know what this means. I know it's supposed to be here." There's article tags. There's section tags. There's all kinds of stuff you can do. Video, audio, all kinds of great stuff. Canvas. Ooh, Canvas. You can do animations and all really powerful stuff. Really great stuff.
Just
But it's a pro. It's a pro. Exactly. Yes.
There's IE9.js that will bring IE6 up through 8 to compatibility with IE9 and all of the CSS3, all that other stuff as well.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's a number of different ways to bring it up. There's also CSS3 Pi, I think it's called, which is another JavaScript solution for bootstrapping CSS3 support in older versions of IE.
What about browsers other than IE?
Pretty much everybody else sees it. It works in everywhere else except for those.
So Firefox is good, Safari is good.
Like how far back in
Firefox
Firefox?
up is good. Google Chrome, which Google Chrome kind of updates itself, but Google Chrome as early as like version 7, which was introduced 3 years ago, will work.
Yeah, it's been around for a long time. The whole, really, it's not a matter of which version it's market share. IE still dominates the market. I think 7 and 8 are still probably the most widely used browsers, even though Chrome's catching up, and they're all catching up. But unfortunately, the majority of the market share is still on older versions of IE that this stuff doesn't work on. But I'll tell you right now, I have this in production on live production websites with clients that require support for IE6. We haven't had any issues.
By adding
In
a
live
script,
production.
you mean? By adding a script?
Yeah, by adding a script, everything in HTML5, using the Construct 5 template framework, which you have just as renamed and customized as Ubuntuism. That code is in production with clients that require support for IE6 without any issue. Okay.
Let's
So-
keep going, because we got about 20 minutes,
Okay.
and then it's lunch, and then you guys can decide what to do then. But
We'll finish building this thing.
so let's make this into a real website.
So
20
our header
minutes.
is now up there.
Our header is now up
The
here.
header's there.
Now, do we want to style this, or do we want to talk about the markup being produced by modules?
I
I think
think
we should style it.
All right.
do some basic styling. I think the menu thing is a huge.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd love to see
That's
the
a whole
menu.
workshop.
Okay.
I know, but so
At least see how
either
it's done.
maybe just some basic styling of just like the titles, just some basic styling, because you don't have this, once you see
Yeah,
it,
just one's enough,
yeah,
All right.
just so we know where you're putting it, that's all.
right.
So this is the source code being rendered. So this is the source code of the template right now being rendered. Just that we wrote with our GDoc include statements turns into this with the module positions I have assigned to them. You can see we have our header tag and we have our nav classical menu.
This is what shows up on a browser.
Yes, this is what's actually being rendered.
Source.
This is actually being rendered when we do the source code. And the beauty is, this is the JDoc include statement. This is what happens when you do that. This is the JDoc include statement. What happens when you do that? So it's a little bit of code, but it produces a lot.
Can you just show the component piece is right after message, right? We did message.
Did our message.
Div class content, this is our component for our front page. Blog featured, we're showing the front page. That's what that's doing. It's the component, the front page component that's showing it right over there. Goes through, and then if we go all the way down, we didn't put anything above, did we?
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not
So
yet.
Bob isn't showing up, but the footer is because we didn't do the if-then outside of the footer. So it's always going to put the footer.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Whether Bob's there or not.
Exactly.
It doesn't matter because we didn't do an if-then. So
Yeah, exactly.
the
Yeah.
footer's there. It's just empty because there's nothing in
Which
Bob.
wouldn't hurt anything unless you had style footer. I mean, it doesn't hurt anything, but it's
Not at the bottom.
No, unless you had a style footer that was really funky and it looked very strange without anything inside.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so we
As long as you can see it, yeah.
I'm going to check our source code. This is a little trick that I do because you see here, in our template, I just copied and pasted a bit of code. A little snippet that might be helpful for everyone. Sorry, I keep moving between mics. Basically, I don't think we have anything that will break. Not going to. So we're linking with a relative style sheet, text, CSS. This looks familiar to everybody. I mean, we're linking to a style sheet. PHP echo this base URL, base of our website, templates directory, echoing the name of the template, /CSS, our CSS folder, screen.css is the file. This snippet of code it's very reusable because it's probably the least amount of hard coding we can do to this because we're echoing all these dynamic variables being output by Joomla. So what that turns into is, where is that? Right here. Make sense?
Yep.
So it's not found because we don't have a file there yet. We will. Success.
The names of all these files in the folders is very standard for every single template.
No, it can be anything you want.
It all changes.
Other than index.php and template.
Even index.php doesn't have to be called that.
Yeah.
You can put it in the URL.
That's true. That's true. So really it's just template details.xml is the only file that must be called that. Capital D.
Because that defines where the other files are.
Exactly. That
The
tells you
HTML
more.
folder.
Yeah.
Every template
And
club
the HTML.
uses different, UTheme uses like layout.css, typography.css, and whatever. Joomla Shack has style, which the last one was used, I think it's styles.css. Yeah, they're all different. And but by looking at that XML file, you'll get your listing of what the files are
Yep.
from the back end.
So the reason why you didn't have any I remember you showed the folder CSS, and the reason I somehow thought it would throw up all the files inside the folder, but there were none. So I would have
Yes,
to list the
that's
files if there had.
No.
In your manifest, you just
No, in
need
the
to list
manifest, you
folder.
just do the
Oh,
top
we
level.
don't know that.
If you have folders in the
Okay.
root, you have or files in the root, you have to list the files in the root. But you
Otherwise,
just
the
list,
folders.
yeah, you just list the folders and files in the root.
Okay.
Back in some version of 1.5, early versions of 1.5, you had to list all this.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now
Yeah.
it's just through everything.
But now it's just top level.
Telephone.
Yeah, just top level. There's other stuff.
Thank you,
I hope
thank
if
you,
you get
thank
into more detail, where it gets a little more confusing.
Yeah,
But
that's
yes.
why the older ones I had all the files listed in my
Exactly. Yeah.
Back in the
Sam.
day.
Yeah.
Okay, so so we just declare
I was coding when.
all this says right here is install the CSS directory and everything that's in it.
Thank you.
Okay,
Yeah,
I have a
absolutely.
silly question. This is our, should we adjust our
Yes, we should.
I'm just pulling that together, so.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. That
So
way
now
it's-
if you put them in the list here, then it will automatically appear on the list before actually manually putting it in,
Absolutely.
right?
And that would
That's why
explain-
Bob wasn't listed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Okay, so, yes, so we're back to CSS. We don't need this open. This is our file. So we need to do something to our header. Actually, let's do something to our body first of all. We're going to do a width. That always happens. Wait. Okay, I'm going to be a little, no, you know, let's just keep it simple.
I think we're gonna break here, I would say at like 12:45. I'm gonna just let the other classes know. Lunch is already delivered, but does that, I think that gives us enough time to at least get to a certain point and then stop. So I'm gonna go to 12:45. So I'm just gonna do my little run around.
Okay, so we have our CSS file. It is loading. Verify and share. So we just gave our body a width. It's just slightly smaller than my screen here. And header.
Oh, even though this is a CSS file, it's recognizing what body and header and everything else are in HTML5.
Correct.
Is that correct? So you don't even have to put divs in there or anything, it just recognizes it.
Yeah.
That is correct.
Because there's standard HTML.
Yeah, the browser is recognizing it as being.
You don't get people
attacked.
naming things weird things and you know where you are.
I think we need to do some display block and.
Where are all these parameters listed?
Size.
Point.
Oh,
This
yeah.
is not CSS right here.
It is.
Yeah, this is all. This is just.
Display colon block is.
No, this is standard.
This is standard CSS.
CSS.
Oh, okay.
And then you say display, then you put parameters.
Yeah.
And this is probably really poorly written CSS, but at least we'll have something. Backgrounds.
I get the
Huh.
background color.
Good boy.
There you
Yeah, there's something wrong with my syntax with color. All right, so we have our header style for really poorly.
Wow, it takes place immediately too, huh?
We have.
See, it refreshes.
So he's refreshing us.
Yeah, he's refreshing.
We'll do a.
I gotta start doing localhost.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And the beautiful thing about Linux is you don't have to worry about LAMP and XAMPP and all that stuff. You can just install the actual native stuff. But so we're stopping for lunch in what did you say, 20 minutes?
Yeah.
So I'm gonna borrow some code just so we can expedite what I'm doing.
That's the whole point, right? This is all code.
Yeah, absolutely.
Pound sign works here and everything else, just standard CSS.
Yeah,
I can show you one.
Okay.
Bear with me for one moment if you don't mind. So I'm going to. There is for anyone interested in dealing with HTML5 on the web, any early adopters, there is a cool project on GitHub known as normalize.css. And it's anyone ever worked with Eric Meyer's set style sheet?
Yes.
This is like the HTML5 version of it. There's more than one of these. I like this one. It works pretty well so far. I just started using it. So I just dropped that in here. A few things have changed. So we're getting a little bit of style in there. I have my one thing, one question that came up in the course of our conversation about CSS in your template. If you look at the screen.css file and the Ubuntuism template that you have, there is a lot of CSS in there, and a lot of it just targets Joomla's core output, and it just does simple things like positioning and making sure that, let's say that my login or elements are lining up properly. It doesn't actually add any style. It's just kind of
out of your experience of having to constantly tweak that.
Exactly. It just came through that iterative kind of evolutionary process of just creating templates over and over again. If I'm okay, here we go. Flinching. All right, we have a menu.
60%.
Yep. So we just yeah, 80. Okay, we'll do actually green yellow.
I am moving Git into the other room, so in case this discussion wants to continue after lunch, we can.
This is really modular program.
It is modular. These are my module positions, and I'm now putting it on a different template.
So you can see here what I've done here in the style sheet that will be available on GitHub momentarily. Actually, you know what? Where are we here? Okay, so right now we have, this is our template. This is our markup in our template, very simple. We've probably seen this enough times today to know what this is going on. And so what we've done so far is we've linked to the style sheet, screen.css. In screen.css, I dropped in a copy, literally copied and pasted normalize.css. All that does is it normalizes things between all the different browsers, all the little nuances, with HTML5 in mind. There's actually a really great explanation on this normalize.css repo, which is also on GitHub. And of the custom stuff that we've done, it's down there, we go. I set a width for our body, centered it. I added a background color to our header, made it a display block, gave it a width and a height, that way just so we have something there. And then I dropped in some CSS just to make our menu items line up and look like a real menu. That's what all this is. It's just, I turned off the list style type. I'm floating each list item because in Joomla 1.7, our mod menu produces a list. And if we get together after lunch, we can change that. Just override. So you see here our UL class menu. This is all Joomla core markup. This has nothing to do with the template right now. This markup you're seeing right here is produced by mod menu. It's in the core. UL class menu, sorry. We have our list items, A's. We don't have spans anymore. We have all these classes that are actually they're unique because they represent the item. And our CSS, if you look over here on the right-hand side, see our screen.css, we're adding styles, global styles, and here we have some behavior for the UL elements. Here's our behavior for our list items. We're floating them left, position relative, margin 0, padding 0. Yes. Oh, yeah, that's a good point. What I'm doing right now, I'm using Chrome, the Chrome browser. And so what I'm doing, I'm looking at the markup just by right-clicking on the element. Click on Inspect Element.
So you don't need Firebug.
You don't need Firebug.
Built in.
It's built in. So great little thing. So we can actually flip off. We can turn off. Actually, that's pretty cool. So
does that work on the Mac version of Chrome also?
Yeah, I believe so. Actually, here's a good example. I'm inspecting the header element. On the right-hand side, I'm seeing the style. I'll just click off the CSS. That way I can preview in my browser before I actually write the code. Neat little trick there. So this is the start of our template. I mean, it's really simple, it's really basic, but
Hearing agree
I don't know yet.
Because all of your elements are floated
Yeah,
and
the elements are
and the
defined.
list itself
Collapsing.
isn't.
Okay.
It's
The link
collapsing.
colors
Yes.
take precedence over any of the other stuff. Drives me
Gotcha.
nuts.
Yes.
I'll tell you what I
Overflow
need.
auto,
Define it and this and
or float the UL.
and
What I need
then sometimes it doesn't work. It's always doing something else.
Gotcha.
Dun, dun, dun. ClearFix. Who here uses ClearFix? A couple of you.
And it's built into something that already has it.
Let's see here. Where is
It's
it?
not hard to modify, you just gotta know everything is.
That should do it. Knock on wood.
Ooh,
There we
that
go.
looks good.
Yeah, we're getting there.
Nice.
So ClearFix class, that's a little.
Nice.
It's not a hack. It's something that helps browsers behave. It's a bit of CSS. If you Google ClearFix, you'll find different examples. But it just helps you deal with floated elements, how floated elements tend to collapse. They don't have any shape anymore without doing other stuff. So ClearFix gives it position. So we have start and a template. We need to give something, put something in bottom. Session. So our footer, we're just going to throw in the Bob position. It should be in this list now.
See, you got in that list because he put it in the XMLs as a position. Pulling things together, we like that.
Oh, excellent. Cool. What did I do? Oh, I know what happened. Any questions right now? I'm just putting a module in
Bob.
In Bob.
Yeah. I don't know.
There we go.
There he is. There's copyright.
So, in essence, we did rapid template development, just we went about it a completely different way than I planned. But that's okay. But everything, okay, just to make sure, I'm going to commit this to get here in a few minutes. So everything we've done, am I yelling?
No.
Okay. Everything we've done right now in this workshop, I will commit, so it'll be at GitHub/BetweenBrain. You'll find a bootcamp repo. You can download it as a zip. It should install. You can clone it. You can see that you can fork it. You can make changes. You can put in a pull request, and then I'll merge that pull request.
That's great, but where's the?
What was the URL? GitHub.com.
Back up.
GitHub, Between Brain, Ubuntuism.
Matt, can you make sure to email this to me, and I will put a link on our website under the description of this workshop. There will be a link to everything he's talking about. So I'm changing our website now. Joomla Day NYC already looks a little different. So you'll be able to go to his presentation. There'll be the description. Underneath will be the link to whatever things he's telling us to go to here.
Yeah, and
Okay,
you
so
see
it'll
this.
be there.
That's still happy.
Not the second, because I don't know what the link is yet. But
Yeah, this is it right there. Between GitHub/BetweenBrain. This will list every one of my public repos, including the Ubuntuism. It has a tutorial, so it's there too. Bootcamp will be listed. I believe right now it's blank because I haven't committed anything yet. All right, committed. Okay, 3 hours ago I went did something. Why are you reading this? You should be coding.
Reading rots your mind.
But you'll find everything we did in today up there. There's a good chance that I will continue to clean it up a little bit and maybe add some comments and stuff.
Okay, I have a quick basic template question. If they were to download all these files and put it in a zip, there's no actual installation or anything like that. So when I go to install it in Joomla 1.7, Joomla 1.7 is smart enough to unzip it properly. I don't need any kind of install script or anything like that. Is that correct?
No.
Not correct?
Well, it's
well, just because I think that's what people are going to ask, right? If you take the zip, what do you?
Well, actually, no. We did write that. The template details at XML. That's the install script.
Beautiful.
That's
okay,
what
great.
it tells you. But if you go to this repo, and actually any repo on GitHub, click on downloads. If you click on download as zip,
nice.
This is actually something really cool to keep in mind. Now this is the same thing. If you go to the Joomla CMS repo and you click on download a zip, you are getting a nightly build of whatever's happened in Joomla until that split second. If you wait 2 minutes, someone makes a commit, you'll get even more recent version. So if you like living on the edge, or if you're a developer and you want to stay ahead of the releases, you can test stuff ahead of time. But this is the beautiful thing about GitHub. You can go there, you can click download as zip, it generates, boom, right there in installer. Well, a zip of what we've just done. Now what you can also do too.
So when you download it as a zip, is it taking the folder and the directory files inside of the folder?
The whole thing.
Or is it making a zip of the contents inside?
It's creating a zip of everything that I've committed.
So then when you upload it to Joomla, how does it know to create a bootcamp folder and it's inside template details?
Template details.xml, that is the install script. Cool little thing too about GitHub, since we're there talking about it. If you're not me, you can go to GitHub, and we'll go back to, and this is anywhere in GitHub. And we go to Bootcamp. See this button that says fork? The nasty F word? Fork. You can fork this repository, and then you just made it your own. If you have an account in GitHub, you click the fork button, you've just created your own repository based on this work. Now you can change it. You can make it your own. And if you want to, you can put in a pull request and say, hey, Matt, I made these really cool changes to the work that you've done. I think you should put it back into the original repository. I say, okay, cool. Or I can say no, whatever I want to. But the great thing is, by clicking that fork button, you've created your own repository based on my work, and you can customize things from there. You can do it with any public repo on GitHub, including the Joomla CMS or the platform, or the Ubuntuism, whatever you want.
Cool.
You have a question back there? Or are you stretching? Okay. Yes?
Could you show me where the, you said there was a tutorial in here. I've been looking and I can't find it.
All right.
It's at the bottom of the Ubuntuism.
If you go to Ubuntuism, you'll see all the files and everything,
Yeah.
and then you'll see a README file. And that's where the tutorials. This is the step-by-step tutorial.
Thank you.
And actually, if you don't mind, I was really excited about this.
Okay, show it.
I wanted to show you the template that we were going to build. Because
You mean it looks nicer than that?
it will, yeah. There's a reason why it's called Ubuntuism. Because back in August, I was staring at my desktop. If you don't mind a little story. That's my tell a story?
It's okay.
Okay, I was staring at my desktop. Oop, clicked the wrong. Sorry. And this is Ubuntu Linux, if anyone hasn't seen it. I was staring at it in terminal. And I was like, geez, what am I going to do for this workshop? I am not a designer. I mean, if you go to constructframework.com, it will be evident that I'm not a designer. I will admit that right now. So I was staring at this going, geez, what am I going to do?
It's not that bad.
Well, it's not that great either. But we're going to fix that. So I was staring at this going, that's it. That's the design. I'm going to be a super geek. There's a reason why I wore this shirt today.
Okay.
We're going to build the Ubuntu desktop experience in 30 minutes or less. And it was actually going to happen in 30 minutes. So if we didn't break everything,
Just like a Jimi Hendrix experience.
this is
Oh, that's so funny.
this is the template. Now it's we changed a couple things.
Yeah,
the
because
header.
we threw stuff in.
That's
That's
okay.
okay.
We can fix that real quick. I did a couple of fun things that I thought some people might appreciate. So this is a Joomla template. Looks just like Ubuntu desktop. Looks like terminal, right? So as we navigate around, see our little, if you've ever used terminal, and you go, let's see here, hopefully I don't find anything really embarrassing on my computer. Downloads. You see how up here up top, right up there, that changes to tell you where you are in terminal.
Oh,
Your breadcrumb.
3 for round corners. One little thing I did here with the style sheet switcher. That is, there we go. A little minimize, close. So if you really want to play with your clients, make a key, make a link. But it's just CSS. It's a style sheet switcher, changing the CSS. But that is the Ubuntuism template. So if you go to that repo, you check it out, you go through that tutorial, as long as I didn't make any mistakes, because if it comes out wrong, it's my fault.
Well, it's not here.
Not yet.
No, but I installed the.
That's correct.
The file.
You have to build it. It doesn't.
Oh, we're going to build it together. That's right.
The
Exactly.
template, the README file tells you what to do.
Well, actually, it is there. It's just you have to know where to look.
Okay.
Yes.
Is there any advantage, disadvantages in having a lot of defined areas as opposed to having one large area that you fill up with modules? Is there efficiency in downloading?
Not really, because the amount of overall markup would be pretty much the same. The difference is your ability as a template creator to be able to style and control those different modules. That's probably where you're going to run into an issue.
Yeah, because sometimes, like some of the Joomla ones, they just give you major areas. And
Exactly.
You fill it in and do this. And I'm thinking, I'd like to have each individual area so I can fuss with it.
And you should know today, hopefully, if I did my job fairly well, you should be able to actually add that stuff now. So you should be able to pop in your HTML, your classes, your IDs, to control that stuff.
Line it up, make them different colors, backgrounds, and anything.
Absolutely. Create your own module positions.
Yeah.
So there's, absolutely. I've seen some templates from some template providers that literally have 3 divs.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm sorry. Time's up.
Time's up. Okay, here's, we're going to, Barb has an announcement.
So Jen Kramer had contacted me about a week or so ago, asking if I would present on template development at the Joomla Day New England, Brattleboro, Vermont, March 31st, and that Matt was also going to be a presenter, and she suggested that I do the basic how do you build a template, and that Matt come in and do his construct. So we didn't get the construct, but in March we'll have that sequence of I'll do what he just did, and then he'll do his construct piece.
Absolutely.
So March 31st, JoomlaDayNewEngland.com.
There
it is.
Yep, that'll work.
Great.
With the cows.
Yeah,
If anyone's flying into Bradley Airport, if you come in Friday afternoon, I will pick you up. I already volunteered to drive a bus. I'm serious. I will stop at Bradley, pick people up at the airport. As long as you're within a reasonable time span, a couple hours, a few hours.
And if you're going from New York,
yes,
it's a long train ride, but it's so nice.
It's a
and
beautiful
you're just
train ride.
sitting and you're reading, and it's lovely. And you get right into downtown Brattleboro, so you literally just walk to the place. And the hotel,
the Latches.
Okay, the Latches reopened. I got an email from them. It's a beautiful, quaint little hotel. The rooms are $80 a night. I mean, like, it's just
like New York.
Just like New York.
This is off season.
It's fabulous. It was a great, I went last weekend. It was just a great, great weekend. So I highly recommend it. But back to today. So definitely sign up for that. Because I have my logistics going. We're going to break for lunch. Now let me ask you as a group. Would you like to continue what Matt was doing? We have a couple of choices. We can continue on building with this basic and figuring out how to add those menus in, number one. Or we can, now that you know the basics, we can do that 30-minute build that he was going to do initially, but you weren't ready to do it. You might be able to do both, but I can't promise that. Because, so which one? Menus or doing his original construct?
Or his
Original?
Yeah. His rands for original.
You got it.
Yeah.
Are you talking about doing that during lunch until 1:30?
No, after 1:30. What we're going to do, I'm going to switching things around. I'm going crazy here. So what we're going to do at 1:30, we're going to continue the template discussion in here, and it's really going to go back to building it in the 30 minutes time. If there's time after that, my thought is to show them exactly how to do the suckerfish stuff, because because I know that's probably on people's brains somewhere. But I wouldn't let people go there until you've done what you needed to do with your construct. So that was going to be a bug squishing. We're still going to do a bug squishing, squashing in New Amsterdam room. So there's going to be at 1:30 templates here. Git is going to be in Radio City. SQL is going to be in the main room, and bug squashing at the end.
Great.
And I'm going to make that announcement again to everyone because we'll get everyone together for lunch. So why don't you guys break for lunch? Is that okay with you, Matt?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, just making sure. Thank you.
Sorry, I missed the very beginning of your talk, but my story is different from
Selling.
The terminal. We're not able to sell them. You can go to Amazon.com.
But only online.